Alright, this is the third and final video. As I said, Hitler has to turn his attention to England, and so this is the Battle of Britain. Now, Battle of Britain refers to a lot of mini battles that take place basically around 1940 trying to get into England. Okay, we get a new Prime Minister. Chamberlain is out. We get a guy named Winston Churchill. They called him the Bulldog. He kind of resembled a bulldog. And British Bulldog, that's a shout out kind of to the 80s of WWF at the time, wrestling. There was a guy named the British Bulldog. Anyway, Winston Churchill, like a bulldog is very territorial and protective, so he decides to keep all of his troops there around England to protect. Now, if you notice my map here, England in particular is part of the United Kingdom, making Scotland and Ireland, is an island. Okay? So the Blitzkrieg won't happen. The only way for Hitler to win England is to pound them into submission, to bomb them. Okay? And so the Battle of Britain took place, and you can see here there was a lot of different things, and this is kind of cool. Desperate odds in 1940. The Luftwaffe, which is the German Air Force, had over 2,000 planes. The RAF, which the British had like 640. And so you can see also the men lost and things like that. I mean, this is utterly. How can they win this? How is it possible that Britain comes on top? Because do this now. Hitler gets a little impatient. He thinks this is moving too slow, and he starts bombing. He was dropping somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 600 bombs daily on London and other places, trying to beat them into submission. At the same time, he's using U-boats to basically blockade England so no supplies are coming in, and he's trying to starve them out. He did use a place in France to build a U-boat pen, which is actually really cool. You can see all the little different layers of concrete. This took a huge bomb, hit it on the top, trying to get to it, and it got through a couple layers of concrete, but didn't even touch the U-boats. So they're able to repair them and get them back into service. This does not look good for England. So what ultimately saved them? How did they survive this? Two things. First off, they develop a crude radar using we'd had sonar at this time and depth charges and things like that. They said, surely we can do this, and so they bounced the radio waves up, and they could detect the planes coming in and tell how far out they were, and try to move people in a targeted area away to protect civilian lives so it wouldn't be as devastating. And the second thing are blackouts and also fallout shelters, and lastly also air raid wardens. So an air raid warden was usually in charge of a city, and his job was to look for the lights on the plane. This is difficult given the nature and the hustle and bustle of big cities, so they would pronounce blackouts in which you were to put lights out, things like that, so you could see the planes easier. Once a plane had been spotted, something like that, using radar, you could move people to a protective shelter in the middle of the city and thereby save lives. And so these people are just kind of biding their time and realizing that maybe the Germans are going to give up. Now, around these same lines as well, Hitler has to make a very big decision at this point, and that is, do I keep going my plan and just keep wasting money on England, or do I invade Russia? The United States are now going to get drawn in much closer with England, which we'll talk about. But in the next video, I'm actually going to kind of pause here for a second and bring up the period known as the Holocaust and how all that tied in, because that's kind of where this is fitting in before we get involved. Okay?